Hey Poke people! Today we are going to be going to play the Sunday tournament, and I am playing another Ultra Prism deck. I'm not playing Garchomp today, even though I do have a better list now than I did last week. Today I am going to try out a very strange deck. Probably not optimal, but just because I don't necessarily have all the cards, but I think it'll be maybe decent. We're going to do a Glaceon, Ninetales, Zoroark. So I'm the reason why I'm wanting to play all three and the balance that I'm playing them is because I feel like these are three cards that mesh very well together, and I'm trying to figure out which ones are the best partners. So playing an even count of each of them, and we're just gonna see, you know, which pair together really well, which cards don't really mesh as well with the deck, so we can see if we can maybe pare it down a little bit to be more of a either like Glaceon Zoroark or Glaceon Ninetales or Ninetales Zoroark or Ninetales Glaceon. Anyway, so real quick before we head out, let's go over the deck profile. Okay, so here's the list at a bird's eye view. We are going to be starting with 4 copies of Eevee, just because we really want to start with Eevee in the active and then play down a water energy to be able to get the Glaceon out and stop any Tapu Leles that might be used to kind of set up on my opponent's side of the field. You really want that turn 1. It's I think it'll be pretty dynamic. Moving on, we've got a 2-2 line of Ninetales GX. I kind of feel like I should put 3 Vulpix in, just because it is the Beacon Vulpix and it has utility outside of just being the thing that evolves into Ninetales. But I'm not sure what I would really wiggle around to fit it in just yet. So this is what just what we're going to roll with now as like a preliminary thing. We've got a 2-2 line of Zoroark GX. Like I mentioned in the profile, the lines are pretty consistent outside of the 4 Eevees, just because we want to start with that. So we've got, yeah, the 2-2 line of Zoroark just to help with draw support and just to be a solid backup attacker for just a DC. It's just, I mean, it's everywhere. I feel like I don't even need to justify it at this point. 2 copies of Tapu Lele, pretty standard, especially for me. We've got 4 copies of Ultra Ball, pretty standard in really any deck. 4 copies of Aqua Patch, just because our water lines are pretty heavy as far as the deck goes. We are doing 3 copies of Choice Band. I'm kind of debating whether or not that needs to go up or down. I'm used to playing Zoroark with Golisopod, where you're kind of going for the 2 shots, where, you know, the Choice Bands maybe don't matter so much. But in the case of Ninetales, and I guess to a lesser degree Glaceon, you know, there's some potential there for maybe 1-shots. Glaceon more with the GX attack, Ninetales more with the Blizzard Edge attack. And actually, you know what, let me go over their attacks real quick, because some people might not be familiar, especially with Glaceon. So Glaceon has 200 HP. We use the Energy Evolution Eevee so that when we play a water energy down on it, it can instantly evolve into Glaceon, even if it's our turn 1, so that's kind of the combo there. There's, I misread this, Freezing Garlic. Freezing Gaze is the ability. Basically stops your opponent's EXs and GXs from having abilities. So that's pretty cool. We'll stop Regirock from boosting Buzzwoles. We'll stop you know, Volcanions from being able to steam up. Probably most importantly, it stops Leles from being able to, I mean, really be used, and Zoroark from being able to trade, so it's a pretty great ability, I think. Next down the line, we've got Frost Bullet. It's a water double colorless for 90 damage. That seems not great, but it does have a 30 snipe to the opponent's bench, so you can kind of set up future knockouts. Polar Spear GX is actually pretty great. It's water double colorless, same as Frost Bullet, 50 times, so this attack does 50 times for each damage counter on your opponent's active Pokemon. So even just after hitting something once on the bench with a Frost Bullet and doing 30 damage, that GX attack does 150, because it's 50 times each damage counter. So it gets pretty ridiculous pretty fast. So generally, in most cases, if your opponent's active Pokemon has taken damage from almost anything, that's going to be a big ol' 1-shot right there. So that's pretty cool. Most of you probably know what Ninetales does, but just because I haven't really personally played it myself before, we've got 210 HP, which is pretty solid for a stage 1. That's kind of what you're looking for. Glaceon's on the lower end with the 200, but that's pretty consistent with the evolutions. For a double colorless, we have the Ice Blade attack. You can snipe for 50. That kind of sets up well for Polar Spear GXs on the Glaceon. You can kind of get some big knockouts there. Also sets up for Blizzard Edge doing 160 to definitely get knockouts on some of the bigger Pokemon in the format. Blizzard Edge, water colorless, so it's a little bit more tricky to power up than Frost Bullet is. But it does 160 HP, discard 2 energy from this Pokemon. Ninetales in general synergizes really well with Aqua Patch, so that's pretty cool. Its GX attack is also really good. It's only for a DCE, Ice Path GX. Move all damage counters from this Pokemon to your opponent's active Pokemon. So not only is it a full heal, for your side of the field that doesn't discard energies. It's basically a max potion that you don't have to discard energies for. You get to give all that energy in a nice little bow to your opponents. So especially if Ninetales has been beat up on quite a bit, maybe it's getting close to being knocked out, that GX attack is pretty huge. Alright, so moving back down to the rest of the deck, we've got 2 copies of Floatstone. Just because the retreat costs are a little bit unforgiving on some of these Pokemon, particularly the Zoroark is 2, the Glaceon is 2. Fortunately, Ninetales is only 1, so that's good. But just for those 2 retreat cost Pokemon, just to be able to get out of there pretty quick. Again, I'm trying to kind of balance between whether or not Choice Band or Floatstone is kind of more optimal in this deck. We'll see how it goes today. 2 copies of Field Blower, 1 copy of Rescue Stretcher, which might be a little bit brave. We'll see kind of how that goes today. I would like to run maybe 1 more copy, but yeah, at this point I'm just not sure what I would take out. I kind of just need to play around with the deck a little bit to figure out, what works in the deck, what doesn't so much, and then we will make some decisions for what to cut from there. Moving down to the supporter lines, I generally like to go for an 8 count of supporters as like a rule of thumb. I know with the introduction of Cynthia, everyone's kind of trying to figure out that optimal split, and I think it really just depends on the deck. Generally with like stage 2 decks, I don't like to play as heavy a count of Sycamore, whereas stage 1s, and especially basic decks, they can really take advantage of Sycamore, I think, a little better, just because there's less things that are as crucial to throw away. So I've got 3 copies of Sycamore, just a nice balance because we are playing a stage 1 deck. 3 copies of Cynthia, just because I think it is a very solid card. And N, we only have 2 copies just because, N's a little bit more conditional. I think Cynthia's, they do different things. N is kind of also used as a utility to punish your opponent. If they're ahead on prizes. But yeah, I feel like N is a little bit more situational, whereas Cynthia is maybe a little bit more reliable as a draw supporter. Maybe not so much as, an opponent punisher, but draw supporter. I just felt like this was kind of the optimal split from the front end, outside looking in. So moving on down the line, we've got a 4 count of Guzma, just because some of those retreat costs, again, are a little bit unforgiving. I feel like in a lot of cases we're going to be going for the kind of the 1-2 punch with our Pokemon, so maybe not a lot of like one-hit big knockouts, but again, with Ninetales and Glaceon, you're kind of spreading damage around the field, so setting up knockouts for later, so once you kind of soften up something on the bench, you Guzma it up and just take it out. So I feel like Guzma is going to be pretty important in this deck. 2 copies of Bridget. By now you know that that's kind of my go-to. There's some decks, I will admit, there's some decks where I play 1 copy, and there's some decks where I would probably play 3, but generally across the board 2 is kind of my go-to, just because I'm a scaredy cat and I don't want my Bridget on turn 1 to get prized. I'm kind of interested to see what impact Bridget's going to like how Bridget's going to shift in the format now that Glaceon is in. If Glaceon gets really big, people can't lay for their Bridgets anymore, so people might be running thicker counts of Bridgets, which is interesting because, it's good in the early game, but late game it's probably kind of a dead card. So I don't know. I feel like Bridget is in a place where it might do a lot of shifting, but we'll see, what that looks like in the future. 1 copy of, of course, 1 copy of Cyrus Prism Star. I kind of want to give this card a try today, as a way to kind of thin out my opponent's bench in decks that have like a lot of utility bench setters and that kind of thing. So I'm really interested to see how this works. After the errata, I believe this got changed, actually, so you can't play this card if you don't have any water or metal Pokemon in play. It's actually now if you don't have any water or metal Pokemon in the active. So it's definitely an important distinction to make. I don't think anyone at the tournament's going to care that I have the previous Cyrus card. I'm pretty sure most people only have the previous Cyrus card at this point. I believe the errata did actually already go out, which is insanely quick, but I don't think it's been widely distributed just yet. So I'm going to roll with this one for now, and yeah, that's fine. Up here, as far as energy goes, we're of course running 4 copies of DCE, just because DCE is a very important card for basically all of the Pokemon that we have. Glaceon is really a heavy user of DCE. Ninetales is pretty solid for the GX and for the Ice Blade attack, and then of course we have our Zoroark. And you know, the occasional Tapu Lele that gets a little, you know, a little heated. So yeah, 4 copies of that, and then we've got 9 copies of Water Energy. That seems excessive, but one, it kind of lets us be a little more loosey-goosey with like discarding them early in the game. Maybe Sycamore in some way, maybe Ultra Ball in some way, just for Aqua Patches later. And then we also just really want to be able to get that Water Energy on turn 1 with our Eevee. Hopefully that doesn't end up bricking us. Hopefully we don't have, you know, a bunch of hands where we just have like Water Energy on turn 1 and then we just get kind of messed over. But yeah, that is the deck. Again, this is obviously not the optimal build, but this is just me going in and saying, you know what, I kind of want to play this deck. I want to see what's good and what's not. And kind of like last week with Garchomp, you know, maybe we didn't play so well, but we learned a lot about how to play Garchomp. And maybe even more about how not to play Garchomp. So that's valuable information. So that's just the attitude that I'm going into the tournament today. Not necessarily looking to get any big wins, but just to get some knowledge. And knowledge is power. So let's go ahead and head out.
Alright, we have a Glass Energy, Manaphy, ooh, Cynthia.
Why?
Rockdale,
Excuse me?
Geable,
Those people are out of their mind.
Hider,
What's better than Aqua?
Stunky,
Pokemon Aqua.
Some people think that
Turtwig,
is better than Aqua Patch. I
Electabuzz,
They say it because you
Salazzle,
but
and Grandpa. 4,
I guess.
Well, why would you
Well, yeah, why would you
Energy,
just play
ooh.
Aqua?
Oh, I got an Ultra, I got a Prism Star, I can see it.
Andrew.
go in their stream
Sheldon, Looker,
go in their stream and tell them they were wrong?
Lexio,
What a loser.
Giving
Luxio,
misinformation.
So, like,
Electabuzz,
dude said, like, Super
Turtwig,
Boost is number 3.
Cosmon,
And I was like, okay. That closes the video.
Zila,
Yeah, I was like,
Zeus.
just...
This guy was hyped up.
Ooh,
I know
so
he is.
pretty.
This is the guy.
Ooh.
We got
That's
some.
my favorite part about this book.
And now I got
And
something new.
Kina.
Oh, boy.
Great. So basically,
Straightening it. Straightening it.
Okay, so
That's what it wants you to do.
1, 2, 3, 4.
It's actually telling me, it's actively lying to you and telling you to make Como
We
super.
have a Water Energy, Agent Crystal, Dugtrio, Great Bomb, Lammeow,
And I was like,
Kirby, Electabuzz, Turtwig, Cosmos,
I was like, I can't imagine playing that.
Licolice. Yeah, you're getting so much good stuff. There's another shiny.
They made
I
that.
gave you the wrong
I
pack.
was
I
like,
don't
it
see a
is-
shiny.
It gets E-hammered and you can't even special
Fairy
effects.
Energy,
It's just gone.
Gumshoes,
Is that gone
Great
forever?
Bomb, Cowpad,
Help, that's good.
Crocrunch, Gable,
It's a good card. What are
Railu,
you sleeving up with?
Swoon,
Ghost Spot? No, okay.
Bertram,
So I'm thinking like with a
Ooh, Levi.
Oh,
Come on!
shut off.
Okay, so we have a
Definitely
Water
viable.
Energy, Goodbye, Pokemon Fan Club, Cosmos,
it's a good one. It's a good one. I can't knock it.
Goose, Stunky.
Talking about 4 viewers.
They're so cute, the little Vulpix.
I only have Cynthia. That's the only new card.
There's
I don't know what
there's
else.
one Fallen, there's one.
That one's it's gone splat.
And I was just jumping.
Slightly altered build of
Then an
Lapras.
Eevee,
Ooh,
Notepad, Bomb Snow. Lick.
energy. Quarter pad.
Are these the shiny ones?
Fire memory. I can't read upside down. Monferno.
Vulpix!
The bad Vulpix. The bad Eevee. Crow. Ma. Sue. And. Uh-oh, something good.
Ooh.
Aww.
Boy pulled a rainbow
This has got something shiny on the back too.
But if you're gonna do that, you might as well run electric in that way.
Mover. A Rangaroo, not a good one.
Do, 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 do.
Oh, 2 in a row again. 3 in a row again. Wait, isn't that the same thing that just happened? Right?
Yes.
Oh, here we go, here we go, here we go. It's Leafia!
Leafia! Woo, woo.
Good dude.
Alright, so here is oops, upside down. Here is Riley's tournament pack that she gets for just entering a tournament, which is awesome for this location.
I got a rainbow skateboard on.
Energy is going to be metal. And we got a next skateboard, a cherub, a magneton, a sneasel, a magnemite, a cherubi, a baneri, a hippopotas, there we go, a yanma, and a crushing hammer.
What? Yo!
What?
So expensive.
I'm so happy.
Alright, Ella,
I've already played.
question of the day.
Played these.
Also, you didn't do your joke and your burn last
I think
week.
it's a little bit random.
I noticed it when I was editing. You didn't do it. If you were a Pokemon region, which region would you be? It's just a strange question.
I'm confused.
I know.
Which landmass?
Yeah, what
in
landmass
this
do you most
made-up
most
universe
identify
would
with?
you? The biggest one.
What?
The biggest one.
I don't know what my turn is.
What's the second?
I don't even know what this means.
If you were a Pokemon region, which region would you be?
You're taller than me.
You have to be a little.
I'm like that smaller.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So that's your answer.
I guess Sinnoh. I guess I'm Sinnoh.
Would you be
you're
Sinnoh?
Whatever's the biggest one, because you have everything.
I get.
What's the hairiest one?
I think yours. Universe the biggest.
There you go.
Round 3 will be Barbara and Nate,
Yep.
Zach and Justin, Ella and Riley.
All right.
Oh,
So what's your answer? What's your answer? You haven't answered.
I don't know.
You don't know.
What my dad said.
Okay. Tradition, you're playing, so you got to answer. What's it gonna be?
Sorry, what?
Oh no.
If you could be a Pokemon region, what would it be?
Oh no, yeah, I would definitely be the Alola.
No comment.
No comment. We got 2 I don't knows. Hey Poke people! So I just got back from the tournament and it was pretty wild. As I said before, I went to the tournament and as you guys saw when I went over the deck list was obviously just not optimal. It just wasn't where it needed to be, but I just didn't have the cards to get it where it needed to be. I think in theory, I think my my initial idea was kind of confirmed today that, well, obviously, you should be running 3 main evolution lines in a deck, typically. So having Zoroark and then Glaceon and then Ninetales was kind of like needlessly excessive. Fortunately, we've got this to open up as part of the video, just as a treat at the end. Kind of as an apology for something that I haven't told you about yet. So, round 1 was pretty interesting. There was a new guy at the group. His name was Justin. I think his name was Justin. I hope I don't get that He was playing an interesting, like, Lunala, Mewtwo GX deck, moving energies around and that kind of thing. And it used max potions, so, you know, you can rotate energies around, max potion things, and then move the energies back where they need to be. It's pretty wild. I think it's a good idea. I was able to edge out a win mostly just because Glaceon completely shut down the deck. The issue was that Lunala's ability that lets you move the energy around wasn't working because of Glaceon. It got shut down by Glaceon. And then after that point, I mean that's the main function of the deck. So after that shut down, the deck kind of falls apart. He did mention that there's a lot in Ultra Prism that he wanted to put in, but whenever he came to play with us today, he kind of figured that Ultra Prism wouldn't be allowed because it's not legal yet. Unfortunately, he just didn't know that we're not that hardcore, we're not that serious, so we don't really mind. I told him after, you know, once we started playing, I was like, if you want to swap cards out, you can. It's not like I haven't done it before. But it seemed like he wanted to stick with what he had. He also might just not have had the cards with him, I'm not too sure. But anyway, it was a good first round. Game 1 I ended up taking, game 2 he ended up hedging out, and we were doing the timer again today, but I think we were all pretty tired because just about every game today went into sudden death. So that was interesting. So just with Glaceon I was able to get an optimal start, kind of shut down any Lele's or abilities or anything, and just it was pretty easy at that point to just take a knockout and win the round. So the reason why I'm apologizing is because for some reason, even though I'm pretty sure I recorded it, it's not on my memory card. So I guess apparently I didn't. I had it set up and everything. I had a conversation with him, just making sure he was okay with the camera, and I reached over and I thought he hit the red button. Maybe I didn't press hard enough, I don't know. So for whatever reason, I did not get round 1 recorded. Rounds 2 and 3 were pretty interesting as well. So round 2, I ended up going against Mike. He went back to his Golisopod Zoroark deck. No, he went back to his Golisopod Garbodor deck. Round 1, I ended up taking, it was a very long game and it was pretty close, but I managed to get a win. I think I only had like 1 card left in my deck if I remember it correctly, and so if I would have came around to my turn again, drawn that card, and then came around to my turn again, I would have decked out and lost. But fortunately that didn't happen. Round 2, I can't remember. Oh, I remember. It was really, really close. So it was really, really close. So it came down to him having a Trubbish on the bench that I just completely wasn't paying attention to. I didn't realize that I had played 10 items, and it was Mike's turn. He was able to bring up the Garbodor and knock out a Glaceon for the win. I completely just wasn't paying attention to that Garbodor down there, or to the Trubbish down there. And it stings because on the next turn I had, like, if I could have had another turn, I had a Guzma in my hand, and I only needed, I think, 1 more prize. I could have just brought something up. Snipe. But, you know, it's easy to say that I would have won if I would have won. So it was a really good match. So we went into sudden death, which went a really long time just because we kept kind of like shifting Pokemon around and stuff and moving damage about by, you know, denying knockouts and things like that. So eventually he managed to take out one of my Pokemon and he got the win. So he went on to the finals. Last round I played against Ella, and for her, unfortunately, it was just a really bad matchup. You know, Glaceon's ability doesn't really do too much to hinder her Incineroar deck, but at the same time, Incineroar's weak to water. I was able to stop Lele's and things like that, so it wasn't, it just wasn't a good matchup for Incineroar Buddy. So anyway, without further ado, I'm going to get into the Zoroark GX box. Oh, one other thing that I wanted to bring up is that I was able to trade with Zach to get a Glaceon, so I got the 3rd Glaceon, and that was before I started, we started the tournament. So the deck list was a little bit different. I pretty much, I think all I did was I took out a line of Ninetales and Vulpix, and I'm pretty sure that was it, and I just popped in. No, I just took out the second. Oh, I remember. I just took out one of the two Ninetales GX and I popped in the Glaceon GX, so nothing too crazy. And then right before we left, I was able to trade that beautiful Crushing Hammer secret rare that you saw that Brittany pulled to Zach for a Leafeon and a Promo Lurantis. Apparently the Crushing Hammer and the Leafeon are going for around the same amount. I think the Crushing Hammer is going for like an extra like $1.50. Micah and Zach were kind of competing to try to sweeten the pot to get me to trade them the Hammer Bum. So now we have 3 Leafeons, 3 Glaceons. That's pretty much all I need of either of those. So I'm really, really happy. That's 2 decks that I super duper wanted to make that I can now build and test out. So next weekend, I don't know if I'll bring... no, next weekend I need some more practice with Glaceon because now I have the ability to put it together properly and test it out. And then I can also maybe get in some practice matches with the group, maybe at some point this week with Leafeon and the Promo Lurantis idea that I had. So anyway, thank you guys so much for watching. Let's go ahead and get into the Zoroark GX box before we close it out for today, and hopefully we'll get some good pulls. So I'll see you over there. Alright everyone, here is the beautiful Zoroark GX box. Let's go ahead and get into it. I'm going to be doing this pretty quick. I'm trying out a new thing. It's basically like this posable arm that holds a small camera and goes over a table. So what I want to do with this is actually do some deck profile and kind of better match recording in the future. Just to kind of go over the table and maybe do some narrating over it. I hope that's something that you guys would be interested in. Let me know in the comments down below if that sounds pretty cool. So we've got our new little baby Zora, which I'm excited about. I like this art better than the Shining Legends booster pack art. Here's our beautiful Zoroark GX to go inside the Glaceon GX deck. I'm really, really excited about that. Alright, of course we've got the giant Zoroark GX card. I've already opened 2 of these on my channel, so at this point I'm just kind of going to speed through. I hope that's okay with everyone. Of course, here's the Zoroark coin, if anyone's interested. So, okay, so we've got our 5 Shining Legends packs. I'm going to go ahead and open these. I don't know which one I want to start with. I guess we'll start with me right here, just because it's easy. What I'm really hoping is that we can pull a 4th Zoroark out of here. Oh, well, that's anticlimactic. You know what? I'm just gonna go through it. 1, 2, 3 to the front, toss the energy. We've got a metal energy. We got a Pokemon catcher, Great Ball, Scrafty, always happy to see that, Litten, Shroomish, Quillfish, Ivysaur, Manaphy, and, Larvesta, and Mewtwo GX. You kind of saw that when they spilled it out, but that's okay. Kind of interesting to see this card after I played against the deck for it today. I don't necessarily know how viable I think that it is, but I'll take a GX pretty much any day, so that is completely okay with me. Let's get into pack number 2. Alright, so I've got 1, 2, 3 to the front, toss the energy, got Darkness energy. Alright, so we've got a Life Art, Volcarona, Spiritomb, Bulbasaur, Stunfisk, Quillfish, Shroomish, Scraggy, Pokemon Catcher, and a Latios. It's pretty good. Latios, I think, is a pretty decent playable card. So, alright, so now this pack we've got some Mewtwo pack art. I don't know what it is with this Zoroark box. The packs are kind of harder to get into for whatever reason. Alright, so I've got 1, 2, 3 to the front. Energy is a fighting energy. Let's see what we can get. We've got a Spiritomb, a DCE, a Sophocles, Quillfish, Ivysaur, Torkoal, Bulbasaur, Pikachu, Reverse Energy Retrieval, and an Entei GX. Pulled some interesting GXs out of this box, but like I said, don't mind one bit. I kind of just bought the box for the Zoroark, so no matter what we get out of these packs, it's pretty much just a bonus. Cool thing about Shining Legends is that every pack comes with a at least a holo rare. Got a Fairy Energy. Alright, so we've got Electrode, Great Ball, Howl, Breloom, Stunfisk, Minun, Purloin, Larvesta, Reverse Electrode, and Caldeo. That art is like really, really cool. Not necessarily the most playable card, but still pretty cool. Alright, let's go ahead and get into the final pack here. Pack number 5. I don't know what it is, guys. Seeing a white code every time just makes me happy. Gonna send 3 to the front over here. Toss the energy. We got a Lightning Energy this time. Let's hope for some last pack magic. We've got Super Scoop Up, Spiritomb, Golurk, Torkoal again, Totodile, Weasel, Blustle, Torracat, Reverse Jinx, and are we ready? Oh, Shining Genesect. That's actually not a bad pull at all. There's a lot of hype around this card, especially after, which regionals was that? That was, I think, the London regionals, where that Shining Genesect and Venusaur deck did pretty well. Really kind of a cool pull to get. It's probably the best pull of the box, if I'm completely honest. So yeah, that's pretty fun to see. So I hope you guys enjoyed this opening. I'm going to go ahead and get these bad boys over here sleeved up, and going to go ahead and get my Glaceon deck together for next weekend. Really excited to give it another try, and I hope you guys will give that a watch. And keep an eye out during the week. I might tweet out some of my my deck list ideas for the Glaceon. Probably going to work on that a little bit tonight while I'm editing. Alright, thanks for watching, and have a great day. Boop.